Hello, hello. Well, I'm so excited to be back in another week, and this is, a Monday. So I am super pumped to have the podcast starting again. So today we're on book 90. For those of you who are new to this channel, new to the podcast, if you like it, please hit the subscribe button and hit the bells and all that stuff, and share it if you think it's useful to somebody. So I'm gonna let Chris introduce the book, and let's get on with it.
Yeah, excited to be back as well. You said the Monday word, and it's funny.
I love
We've talked,
Monday.
yeah, we've talked about this a lot. What's your favorite day of the week? This isn't a topic I want to dive into today, but something for everybody to think about, and we can revisit it later. But what's your favorite day of the week? I will say this: mine used to be Fridays. Now it's probably more of a Monday.
Mhm.
And you can figure out why, but I think I know Drew's answer as well. Well, I guess you can say, what is your favorite day of the week?
Well, I told you that a long time ago,
Right.
and
Yeah.
I
Yeah. I
was
already
like
know.
I was like looking forward to Friday, but after so many years of doing the things that I want to do, now I stopped doing the things that I want to do, and I have things. Basically, I just remove all the things I hate.
I'm
Now
excited
it's
to
just the
fire
thing
up the
that I
week.
love, and I can't wait for it to come back. And so
Exactly.
Monday is always my best day, my favorite days.
Exactly. So something, bonus thought for the day. What's your favorite day of the week and why? If
Hmm.
it's, if it's not, if you're not excited to start, if Monday's your worst day of the week, then
Yeah, that means you need to
you should probably
change
think
your
about it. Right.
routine. Say what is
Right.
it that you don't want to do? What's it you hate to do? If that's the
Right.
case, then try to figure out how to transition out of it, how to cut it away from your life.
Agreed. So fun little side note, but I've talked about that a lot over the past couple of years. So I couldn't agree more. But today the book 90 that we'll be talking about is a book called Angela's Ashes by it's a memoir by the author Frank McCourt. Have you ever heard of this book before or familiar with it?
No, I have not. I
Um,
haven't.
it's a Pulitzer Prize winning book, actually, and it's
Oh
about
wow.
it's
Okay.
about Frank McCourt's life. So he's the author, and the quick background on the story. I mean, it's really not that. I don't know. I didn't learn a ton about the story. And I'll get into the reflection necessarily. This wasn't like a big learning book, but like I think the really cool thing about this book was, Frank just wrote about his life, and he had a pretty interesting life.
Mm-hmm.
He grew up as an Irish immigrant in Brooklyn, and they were super poor. He had 4 or 5 brothers and sisters over the course of his life, and he was the oldest of the family, and his dad was a drunk, and he could never keep a job. He would just, every time he would have a job, he would go out and get drunk and drink his wages away and then get fired. And his mom was named Angela. That's the title, Angela's Ashes. And
Mm-hmm.
it's they had to move back from Brooklyn back to Ireland, and he spent most of his childhood growing up in Ireland, super poor, and scraping by every single day, and picking up coal pieces off the side of the road so they could have like a light a fire, and taking care of his brothers and sisters. And a couple of his siblings died. He had a sister that died. He had 2 little brothers that died. They were twins. I mean, I don't know. He had a pretty rough life in general, but the story is kind of told from his perspective as a young kid growing up. It's actually really cool. It's a really interestingly written book, because
Mm-hmm.
he writes it as like an infant or a toddler or a young adult as he's growing up. So it's kind of like that whole perspective of, I'm 7 years old and my little sister just died. Like that's the perspective that he's giving. It's not like some big introspective like adult, like I've gone back
Mm-hmm.
and looked.
Mm-hmm.
It was more like, somebody came over and brought us food, and that was cool because we never got to eat, and like, it was
Right.
stuff like that. So it's kind of humorous at the same time as dark, at the same time as depressing, at the same time as like, it's just this guy's life. I mean, it ended when he was the end of the story was like when he was 18 or something like that, and he ended up going back to the US. And that was kind of the end of the book, in general. So it was just
Mm-hmm.
his whole childhood growing up from, in poverty with his mother and his father, and Ireland. Anyway, it was an interesting book. And the reflection title, the title of this reflection that he made me think about reading after finishing his story is your story matters, so share it with the world, right? So
Mm-hmm.
the beginning of the introduction to this book, actually, Frank McCourt talked about his professional career in some way, shape, or form. I can't remember exactly what he did, but I think he was like an English teacher or like a writing professor or something like that. And he like taught people how to write, it wasn't until he kind of had a floundering writing career himself, and he never really found his voice, I guess, if you will, in terms of creative writing. But it wasn't until one day when he realized, well, I should write about the thing that I know the most about, which is my own life. And he kind of gave himself license to tell his own story, that he finally, broke through and found his own voice, and,
Mm-hmm.
created Angel's Ashes, and he became, became a Pulitzer Prize winning novel. And, everybody knows who Frank McCourt is now, kind of thing. And then he ended up writing a few more novels about his life. But he didn't know, he mentioned it in the book. He was like, I didn't know you could write about your life. Like, that wasn't something that we were told you could do. That wasn't something we were taught. Like, I didn't think anybody would ever care, but, he just started writing and telling the story, and here we are. This is what I found out.
Surprise, surprise.
Right. Yeah. So one of the cool things that I learned about this book, as I was reading this book, I actually happened to see this. I was watching the news one day, which I don't really watch anymore very much, so I'm kind of surprised I even saw this. But I happened to come across this news article one day while I was watching TV, and they were talking about a recent poll of Americans thought that 55% of their lives were worthy of becoming a book or a movie. And the panel of people that were talking about this poll, they were giving their opinions and their thoughts on it. They shared, like, kind of how they were kind of blown away. They were like, I cannot believe that this many people are so arrogant to think that people want to read a story about your life or your story or whatever. Like, that just sounds mind-blowing to them, right? But for me, sadly, on the other side of that equation, I think that's the problem, is like is that sentiment that was coming from the newscasters and the opinion journals. And I feel like everybody deep down inside has a story to tell, and we should be encouraging every single person in the world to be able to share that story, because there's something to learn. Even it may not be one of the the most magical story you've ever heard. It may not be about vampires or Marvel Universe superheroes or avatars or future, AI crap or the Matrix or whatever. But like, Frank McCourt's story matters. Like, True, your story matters. My story matters. Every human story matters. And they're uniquely positioned. There's nobody else who can tell your story other than yourself. So if there's a big lesson I've learned over the past couple of years, it's, don't be afraid to tell your story. I mean, like, that's what I did with I Can't Imagine. I tried to tell Amelia's story and how she changed my life, and that's what we're doing with the Year of Magical Learning. I don't care if anybody cares about this stuff. I really, it doesn't matter to me. It makes me feel good to be able to share who I am and how and what's important in my life. And if it can inspire somebody else, then that's great. I finished off this, reflection saying, I hope in, 100 years from now that 100% of Americans feel like they're worthy of being able to tell a story, and that people should understand that that's valuable, and that we should all have the ability to hear each other's stories. And I just hope that they are brave enough to go tell it and to write it down and to share it with the world, and if they are, I'm ready to listen. So that was the reflection for the day. So yeah, I'd love to get your thoughts.
Yeah, it sounds really cool. I mean, I think for me personally, I think that people think using logic, but they connect with emotions.
Right.
And emotions, to me, it's what I find interesting in other people, and that's what makes me remember that person the most. I can see, futuristic movies, or I can see things that is really great, or somebody's doing whatever. But if it's not similar to me, I don't think much about it. To be honest, I don't really care.
All right, just entertainment.
Well, the thing is, I don't care because it's not something that, because we go back to the self-esteem concept. We are selfish. We do things, we pay attention to things that has an impact on us. Whatever it is,
right,
has an impact on us. If there isn't, like, let's say there's a war in the other side of the world, Yeah, the thing is, you think about it, the same concept applies to the guy who's actually in the middle of the war.
Right.
It's a big difference. I
Right.
mean, their tensions is huge. You're talking about a fat tail. This is what I'm talking about. 1% versus 95%, 99% of all the people. It's a reverse. So we only think and care about things that we can relate to. And a lot of times when we're talking about something that is really great or really off somewhere, the 1% tells you that, hey, that's not different enough for people to want to relate to you.
Right.
But the reality is we are built on the genes to connect. As a human species, we are built to connect with one another. Before the advent of the modern world, we are basically these people who pass on ideas and stories from generation to generation by sitting around a campfire and talking about the stories and talking about, hey, what did you do? What did you
Right.
catch? How did you hunt? Right? That's how you tell how that person is. What are they like? What are their personality and their characteristics? Right? And
Mhm.
so for us, I mean, in the past, we are talking about you have to find out who you are and you have to exude, right? You have to radiate your personality, because if you radiate your personality, then you can attract the people that you want. And you will, kind of like reflect the one that doesn't is not compatible with you. And so you
Yeah.
get all the good things and you detract the bad ones. So
Yeah.
you
I
have to
agree.
tell your story. You have to be able to say, hey, this is me, this is Chris, this is True, and this is who I am. If you see that I am similar to you and you can benefit from knowing what I do and vice versa and whatnot, you can connect and you can come along and do the things that we want to do together. So I really like the fact that everybody should tell a story. For one, is they're going to attract the things that you're gonna want. Because if you're telling people I'm this person but you're not, right? Let's
Right.
say let's say you're really,
The whole fake it till you make it kind of
yeah,
motto,
because
like
you're
that's
gonna
so much
attract
bullshit. Yeah.
you're gonna
Right.
attract other life. If you
Right.
if you're an honest person, and then you want to be this fake it to the make it and all of that stuff, you're gonna
Right.
attract all those people. But then again, that's the personality you trying to,
But that's not you. I mean, it's not,
right. So it's
right.
not you. So you always struggle with it. So you're
Right.
suffering mentally,
Right. Yeah.
right?
I mean, it's like, do you really want to be
And it
Justin
takes you
Bieber?
twice or like X number of effort, X time the effort to play that person, the character,
Right.
versus being yourself. It takes almost no effort at all. And so that's what I'm saying is you're gonna attract the wrong person if you pretend to be someone else. Why? Because the thing is, it doesn't matter. You pretend to be someone else. Well, some some people that's gonna like you, and some people it's gonna hate you. If you be yourself, well, some people are gonna like you, some people are gonna hate you. So
Right.
regardless of what kind of character you want to embrace, you're gonna have people that's gonna like you, and there's people gonna hate you. So why are you switching and trading? You say, hey, it's better to become that other character,
Yep. I mean,
because
the more,
you're gonna have the same ratio of people hating you and people liking you. But in the other one, you spending so much effort trying to pretend something, and you're gonna hate because that's not you. But on the other hand, you have the same number of people hating you and liking you. But on this side, right, you attract people that you really want, and it takes no effort at all because that's who you are. You are just a state of being. If you're just being you, right? And so
yep,
if you don't tell people who you are, how would they know to come to you?
they don't. I mean, like and not only that, it affects your art. So Frank McCourt was like 60 when he published this book, and he had written his whole life, I think. And his art was never anything that he produced that was worthwhile to anybody, because he wasn't authentic. Like, he was trying to produce something that wasn't Frank McCourt. It goes back to a reflection that we talked about toward the beginning of this, that we've already done with the book by Kevin Smith. I forget what it was called. What's that book called? It was something like life advice from fat guy that did good, or something like that. Anyway, the Kevin Smith, the movie director, And that was one of the reflections that I shared, was like when art becomes work, you know, Kevin was able to create this amazing artistic expression of himself in this movie Clerks and Chasing Amy and a few other, you know, his early movies that were uniquely told from a story that only he could write and direct, because it was basically his life that he was creating, and it attracted people, right? And then as time went on, he was like, well, I got to figure out how to be this person that everybody wants me to be, but I'm no, you know, I've already shared my art. You know, he was never evolving with himself. You know,
Right.
it was
People latch onto that characteristic, that personality. Hey, I want you to be that person. Where's that person?
Right.
Show me. Like you were talking about, like Tommy Maguire. Show me the money. Everybody say, show me the money.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Exactly. Well, yeah, it's a good point.
Jerry Maguire. I'm sorry, Jerry Maguire. Not Tommy Maguire. Like, you know, it's just they have in their mind this personality, and you when you fake this personality, you pretend to be that personality, people are gonna latch onto it, and that's all they think. And for Kevin Smith, it was so difficult for him. He was struggling to create a new identity just because people expect him to be that person.
And he wasn't an 18-year-old that worked at a convenience store anymore, you know, like it was, his life had evolved. Like, I mean, he had a different story that he wanted to tell. I mean, it's great that he was willing to take a risk to share at the beginning. But like, this is how art works, right? Like, I mean, Frank had to share his own art with the world. This project that you and I are doing, this is an artistic reflection. This is not, when we look back on this, when we're, you know, in our 60s or something like that, and we're doing other stuff for Club Mini, we'll probably, you know, I don't know, I'm not going to say that all of it's going to be irrelevant, but I would say the good majority of it will probably look back and go, oh man, I can't believe that was my thoughts, because we didn't know anything
relevant
then, you know?
to
Like,
somebody. I mean, that's the beauty of the world, with variety of different type of people, right? I mean, they're saying, you know, someone's trash is the person's treasure. It's the same thing. It's whatever you do, somebody gonna find the benefit to it. But if you don't share it, it cannot be benefit to anyone.
So it's not even you have to share it. You have to share it for your whole life, you know. Like, I mean, I think you should be sharing continually, because you're going to evolve. Your story is going to evolve. New things are going to happen. Like, I mean, find new creative outlets and ways to express who you are through the only unique perspective that you can have, which is yourself. You know, like you know, the book I Can't Imagine, right, that I wrote, I mean, has so many, for me, implications of like stories like this. I can't imagine being a poor kid growing up in Ireland that has to pick up coal on the side of the road to heat my tea in the morning, and like, you know, scrap for, you know, have multiple of my brothers and sisters pass away, and have my dad be a drunk, and, you know, like, you know, I don't know. I mean, I can't imagine that life. Like, through Frank sharing a story, I can. And I appreciate that, but but at the same time, people can't imagine my life, and I can't imagine your life. Like, we're not supposed to imagine, like, you can't do that. Like, you're the only person that can bring your story out there. So if you stop sharing, you know, if you only share once, like Kevin Smith did, and then you stop sharing, like, shame on you. If you never share, shame on you. You know, you should always be sharing, and you should always be bringing yourself into and turn it into meaningful work and art that you can share with other people, that only you can bring into this world, because only I can bring these stories into the world. Only you can bring your story into the world. Like, nobody else can do that. I mean, and it's I mean, that's it. I mean, like, it's shame on me if I don't do it, you know, and shame on you if you don't do it. And I can't wait to hear it, honestly, because at some point in time, whatever you're going through will be relevant for me, and wanting to hear at some point in stage in my life, right? You know, and that's what we're doing this for.
Right. Yeah. So I want to address that statistics about this. You know, the Americans want to think their life is worth sharing, because for me, is with the YouTubes and the social media and all that. I don't know about you, but I watch movies less frequency than I watch people on YouTube or on Facebook or on whatever. Right? I mean, and so you're asking me, are these people, or say, hey, or am I, you know, producing this, you know, professional fantasy land about superheroes, vampires, and magical worlds and avatars and all that, right? Is it? I mean, these just regular people, but because it appeals to my emotion. For whatever, even look at Facebook. We are so addicted to Facebook, TikTok,
Sharing your story.
LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I mean, like I've spent, I'm in a day, I probably spend like 3 to 4 hours, and I am not and I'm not the kind of guy that is very sociable. I'm an introvert, right?
Right.
That's how I was raised, and that in my environment, I'm an introvert. But I'm on social media, and I'm only like, for me on LinkedIn, I'm on LinkedIn all the time. If you message me on LinkedIn, I'm probably gonna see it, and I'm, if relevant to me, I'll reply because I'm always on, right? And that's one platform, right? I mean, there's Facebook, there's TikTok, and all. There's so much, but it's talking about regular people. But that's what consumes my time. Versus, I probably watch one or two movie, in a week, if that.
In a week, I'm sure I've probably watched 1 or 2 movies in a year. I mean,
Exactly. If
well,
that.
that's not fair. I probably watched 5 movies in a year, I would say.
Right. But I'm saying,
days,
but my point is, I am more fascinated by the people that I can connect and relate to, regardless of how fantastic the story should be, like supposed to be. I mean, and to me, that is a contradictory that I see as evidence, because people say you have to have this awesome story to tell to be worthy of sharing. And I disagree, because I see that I am fascinated by, hey, some guy is for example, I love cooking, right? So I watch all these guys who goes and cook and go to the street in different places, and they just, I mean, cooking, how much more can you do? Like, okay, you get ingredients to put together, you put in the pot, you stir it, and then you serve. But I'm watching over and over again. It's not new, but the thing is, I don't mind, because it's the people that I'm watching.
Right. No, I think you bring up a really interesting point, because I mean, that's at its core what platforms like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, whatever, they're all about sharing your story. I mean, really.
And to me, I want to interject before I forget. But to me, is that because the person who's doing the thing, to me, I think they are doing things that they know, and they are real to themselves, that they say, hey, this is who I am, versus somebody who say, I'm just acting. So if I found a profile or some video that is acting, then I watch it, but I won't watch it again. Right. Because the thing is, the person is not, I mean, whether or not they are pretending or not, but for me, as far as I can tell, they do it because that's who they are. And I want to, for whatever, I'm drawn to that aspect of it. But if a person or a fake profile, whatever, do a fake video as a whatever, then to me, it's not as compelling, just like a movie. Because a movie is like, hey, this person is playing a different a doctor or whatever, but he isn't. So for whatever, that kind of disconnects the engagement in my mind. So it's not as drawing to watch the videos or to connect.
It's really funny you say that, because the best actors are the ones that can make it seem like they're not acting, right? I mean, because we don't want to see people act. We want to see real, authentic stories. We want to hear real stories. From people.
And it's very hard. It's very, very hard to kind of like immerse yourself in a character and pick up every single little details, right?
You have to live a different life.
As far as I can tell, there's only a handful. I mean, not a handful, but I can count on my one hand the number of actors that could do that.
Yeah, I mean, and the rest of them,
they have a character and they play the same character over and over again.
Oh yeah,
they cannot.
Like Tom Hanks is Tom Hanks in every movie. Like it doesn't matter. I mean, I always crack Kevin Costner is Kevin Costner in every movie.
Right.
It cracks me up, because he happens to be in good movies, but it's like It's like he's the same
Right.
guy. So it's like,
Exactly. I mean, The Rock is The Rock, and
right.
he's always gonna act like The Rock. He can't act like a wimpy little kid or whatever. He just
Right.
can't.
It's
He
it's a
just can't do it.
it's a funny point because I think you're dead on with that. I think what it goes to is we all crave real, authentic stories of people, right? And I will say this though, Twitter, YouTube, the social media world, Facebook's, all that side of everything is great, and it does give you a platform and to share that authentic, voice all the time.
Mhm.
I will say this: there's art takes time to curate and to craft the story that you want to tell that only you authentically can put out there in the world. That's one of the reasons why I value books so much, because anybody can go on to Facebook and authentically present themselves every single day. That doesn't mean they're bringing art into the world. What I do on a day-to-day basis isn't art, right? Like the story that Frank McCourt told, wasn't something that he could have vlogged every single day and told his story. Like sometimes you need to take time for your own personal life to develop before you decide to
Right.
share
I'm
that
not
with the
saying.
world
I'm
and
not
curate
saying.
that.
I mean, the thing. I don't know. It's to
No,
me.
it's a fine line, right?
To
Like,
me,
I mean,
it's up to the person, because, like I say, everybody will be benefiting somebody else just because, right? So to me, it's not about, okay, you have to do this, have to do that, because, like I said, back to the concept of someone's trash is someone else's treasure, because
right.
you
I'm
never
not saying that
know if
there's
that
somebody that
person
has
can say,
value.
hey, I
Right.
found that beneficial because of this or that, whatever. We never know. And to me,
Well,
I say, well, there are things on the social media that it doesn't appeal to me, but there are certain thing that does. So I'm gonna select the one that does and just
I mean,
move on
we've
to the
talked
one
about
that
this.
isn't.
We've talked about this in another reflection. Volume is the key, right? Like I'm not ever like we just said at the beginning of this reflection. Tell your story. I don't care how you tell it. Just tell your story. So it's contradictory for me to say, curate it a little bit. Tell me a story that matters. But like
That's why I disagree with you,
I know.
because
As I said,
I don't care.
hang
I
on.
don't.
Let me finish my thought. I agree with you. I'm saying like that's me being contradictory to what I just said. Share your story however you want to share your story. That's all that really matters at the end of the day. Volume is the key, right? The more that you share of yourself, however you choose to share that, like is impactful. Frank McCourt only shared one book that he ever wrote, and it became a Pulitzer Prize winner. That's not normal, right? Like, I mean, everybody's not gonna have an Angela's Ashes, of their first book that they publish about their whole entire life when they're 60 years old and write this, like this isn't normal, right? Like this book is the reason why we're talking about this book. I only know about it because it was given an award and yada yada yada. But to your point, and to something that we've talked about for a million times, volume is the key, right? Like share as much as you can with the world, and I don't care how you do that. Like, I mean, I'm being contradictory to say like only share what you feel is really actually can be valuable. Like, no, I guess at the end of the day, like, I mean, I'm cool with it all. Like, just keep sharing.
You share who you are, and the thing is, like I say, for me, there's at least one person that matters, which is you.
Right.
And
as long as you're happy with it.
I guarantee you plus someone else. I guarantee you somebody is going to find something you said that is beneficial or that sparks some kind of thought, right? For us, we read books, right? But these books, like sometimes the reflection has nothing to do with the book.
Right. Often it has nothing to do with the book.
Exactly. So I'm saying is, what we do may spark a thought or an idea, right? That could turn somebody's path completely.
Yeah, so, I mean, the more that we're talking through this, I mean, this is what we're doing right now. Is we're sharing a little piece of art every single day. Like, is this super curated? Did we plan this out beforehand? No, yeah, I spent like an hour writing this, and this is months ago, obviously. But like, I spent like an hour a couple months ago writing this reflection. But we didn't prepare for this, like we're not, this isn't some scripted conversation that we're trying to make sure that we get a really clear point across or whatever. We're not editing these videos after we're done with this stuff. I mean, there's a million ways that we could make this better and make it more easy to consume and more curated to get to the point, but that we don't care. Like, I mean, you're to your point, like, I don't really care. Like, I mean, we're just sharing a conversation that you and I would be having anyway, like,
Mhm.
and putting it out into the world. So you're right. Like, I mean, like, we're sharing our lives and we're sharing our thoughts and we're sharing our stories, and we're doing it every day. Like, so yeah, the more you can share, the better, I mean, share away. I take back everything that I said. Share away all day, every day. And if you have something really special you want to share, then fine, take that time to make something really special and turn it into that curated, beautiful
Yeah,
piece of
share
art.
it
But
however
yeah,
you think, you could do, or think that's, the way that you want it. And whatever, it
right,
takes no effort for you.
right.
Because if it takes effort, then you're not going to continue to share. It's just too much work, and so you have to be
Got to
yourself. When you
align.
be yourself, it's effortless.
Right.
Meaning, I mean, by default, this is who I am. This is what I exude, regardless of what I do. I'm going to exude and radiate the same characteristic and the same personality, right? And if somebody finds that beneficial, somebody finds that inspirational, right? Then they come to you, they attract you, and more likely that you and that person can, you know combine your resources and put your heads together and create even better. You're talking about the loon shot factory, and these things, it will come just because you attract the right people that
Right.
it's matching you on the same personality and wavelength, right? And working with them is going to be joy for you, versus you pretend to somebody else, and then you're going to attract the wrong people, and then you're going to have this disagreement, this clashing, because you don't have the same thought.
Yeah. No, I agree. That gap, the further that gap grows between the way that the actions you're living in your life and who you really are at your core, the further that gap grows, whether or not it's by intention or by design or by, you said, I'm going to fake it till I make it, and this is what I need to fake it to be. Like, the further that gap grows, the more that your anxiety, panic,
Right, because it
depression
basically,
sets in, because you're like,
your body has a certain patterns, and
right,
essentially when you're doing something that's not you actually trying to flip it upside down, so all of your cells in your body, it is basically on its head,
right.
and it's going to give you the stress hormone and say, hey, something is wrong, right?
It reminds me of do you remember, we haven't got to this book yet, but you remember when I was talking to you about Will Smith's his memoir, when one of my reflections from that one upcoming will be about method acting, and how, like, he literally, like you said, he not only did he fake it till he make it, I mean, he pretended to be somebody else, and it messed with him. Like, like, I mean,
Yes,
it's a hell. You remember Heath Ledger, when he did Batman,
yes.
as Joker? I mean, he talked about this before he. I mean, I don't know if he committed suicide or not. I know he had an drug overdose, but he was, like, depressed because he was living his life as the Joker, and that dude's a psychopath, and, like, he was method acting hardcore into that, and that could be depressing as hell if you went to bed every night thinking you were, serial murderer that's trying to cause mayhem and kill,
And then you don't have the
like,
infrastructure to sustain that
right.
kind of a mental mindset, because when to some of these people, like for example, you, right? You went through an atomic bomb of huge magnitude, right?
Right.
It takes a lot of energy to change you from your path, because you have an anchor, and you could take on tremendous, like, for example, you're talking about hot thing, right? You can become a CEO, and it could fail, and you have to fire people and let people go and all that. To you, that's nothing compared to your atomic bomb. So you can take that mental exhaustion, your mental fatigue, no problem. But to other people, it's like, oh, I'm so stressed out, like some people, they lost money in stock market. It's not even their
Right.
money, and they commit suicide. It's like, who who
Right.
forces
Hell,
you,
hell,
right?
there was kids in my college. I went to Purdue. They were, engineering is a really tough program at Purdue, and there were kids who would jump off of parking garages after finals, and I'm like, are you kidding me? I mean, they were, I mean,
Exactly,
like, I
because
mean, like,
you need the infrastructure
because you got a bad
to
grade,
withstand, to kind of take in and kind of like hold these mental. And then if you method act and you become that person, like, that personality could be too much for you. It could collapse on you, and
Yeah.
some people couldn't take it psychologically.
I mean, I could easily see that if I was pretending to be a mass murderer every single day, you know, and my thoughts and my feelings were really aligned to that, like that would really mess with my head, because I don't think that's who I want to be in my life, you know. I mean, and I don't know how I would disconnect, like I don't know how you could, I don't shit. I mean, that would be really, really, really difficult psychologically to like to fully go all in on that kind of stuff. So but to your point, like earlier, like I mean, probably the best person to play a mass killer would probably be a mass killer, you know, because like
because that's his
it's
state of status
effortless,
quo,
you know,
his
like,
state of status quo, right?
right,
It takes no effort for him.
right,
If you are an honest and a loving person and you try to kill people, it goes against every single grain in your cell,
right.
right?
Which
There's
everybody,
no
yeah.
way you can sustain that.
No, so to your, I mean, I think summing it up for me is tell your story, tell your real story, tell your authentic story. Don't try to be somebody else. Just be you. Tell you,
Mhm.
you know, and share. Like be you and share. Like I don't care
Yes.
how you do it, just be you and share. And you know, the question that I asked in this one was, you know, what's holding you back from sharing your story with the world? Something to ponder. I mean, there's a lot of people that feel like they're not worthy. There's at least 45% of America that feels like their story isn't worthy of a
I
of a
think
book or
there's
a
more
movie.
than that. In my
I agree.
mind, majority of people think that because the top, like the ideas that is getting spread the most, it's just from a few individuals, not the masses, right? Whatever people know about is always about, hey, there is one or two individual that creates this movement, and then everybody say, eh, okay, I'll get it with it. But really, they don't really. It's not important enough for them to even like go out and you know put effort in it. They just say, oh, I just go along with it just because, hey,
Right.
I don't have the energy to fight, you know, to argue or to find
Yeah.
reasons opposed to it. So I say, okay, and that sounds fine.
Sure.
Right.
Sure. Yeah.
And
right,
so
sure.
for me, I think majority of the people think that, you know, their life is not. Can you ask me, okay, tell me good news, tell me something, tell me good news for the day. I struggle to find that because I don't know what I do is good news to you.
Right.
Right. So
point.
I struggle to find, oh, well, I clean my yard. Is that good news? To somebody it is, right?
Right. You got to do some gardening today.
But
Yeah.
like, oh no, you know, I fly to Mars and I feed the aliens
Right.
and you know save Earth that no one know about. Well, yeah, that's to me it would be good news, and that's what people think, and that's what we're conditioned to think. So
Yeah.
more than you know, the number of people think that their life is just ordinary.
Right.
But in my mind, ordinary is good.
It's not even ordinary is good. Ordinary is extraordinary. I mean, it's Frank McCourt's life sucks. I mean, for all intents and purposes. I mean, I mean,
you don't want Frank McCourt's life.
You don't want his life. Like, why would you want to hear about his shit life? You know, that
it's like you say, wow, you have time to
this
go
is-
and clean your yard. You have a yard? Shit.
right.
Like, well, Frank McCourt don't have a yard.
I mean, like, I'm
You
not
know
gonna
what I
lie
mean?
to you. When I was reading this book, I was like, man, this book kind of, you know, I'm not, I didn't love this book. Like, I mean, I'm not gonna say like, I feel like you could say this. I want people to say the same thing about my book. Like, you know, I don't want them to love my book. I just want them to hear my Amelia's story, and I want them to hear how she changed my life. I don't care what that does for you. There is no message or theme or like lesson that needs. I don't know what that is. I mean, I tried to leave a theme through mine at least. I mean, he didn't even try to put a theme through it. It was like literally like, here's just like my life.
Yeah.
You know, it is what it is. Like, you know, like here's my story. Like, you know, and like, I mean, it doesn't matter. Like it's like you said, somebody will find value in it somewhere, and you know, the only way that they won't find value is if you don't share. Like that's the only way.
And that's a shame,
right?
Because you could have helped somebody,
right? And that's what life's about, right? It's helping other people and sharing your story, and you know, trying to do this.
I mean, imagine living in, you know, you live on a planet without a single person.
Be awful. I mean,
right, and that's what you're doing. So the
right.
I think the joy that you feel only because you have other people to share with. Just like I asked you, if you make $1 billion and you can't tell anyone, right? You have this huge success,
Right.
but you can't tell anyone.
Yeah.
Think about
do you
it.
remember? Do you remember the compound effect when his Darren's buddy was dying and he told him it's the point, like it's not about like it's about the people you're around. It's about how you live your life. It's about, being true to yourself. It's about it's about so much. One of my core values is don't do it alone. I mean, like I could sit here every single night and talk. I tried to do the first episode I tried to do by myself, and I was like, this sucks. Like I was like, I'm just reading off my own. I'm like, I don't want to just read my own reflection, like, I mean, sure, I can use it as a basis for a conversation, but like this would have been 5 minutes or less of me just reading a computer screen and recorded it. You know what I mean? Like, sure, somebody may have gotten value out of that, but like this interaction is what makes it Mondays good. Like it's exciting. It's what makes us want to go do this stuff. And like, once again, I mean, we're like a broken record, but like, I don't think either one of us care whether or not somebody ever hears this. Like, I mean, to in all seriousness, do you care if anybody ever hears this?
Nope.
I mean, I don't either. So, I mean, like,
I don't care. And I'm the guy that don't lie because lie takes energy. And I'm the kind of guy that likes to conserve energy. To
Right.
me, like people call me the laziest person because I don't want to do things. Because I'm a programmer. If I have to do something twice, I build a function that does it.
Fair enough. Yeah, automate that shit, right?
Yeah.
No, I'm with you. So like, the reason I even say that is because for a long time, I felt the same way, before Amelia, I was like, my life isn't special. Like, I mean, yeah, there's some cool stuff that I do. Yeah, we get to travel, we get to, I love my wife, whatever. Like, I like what I do. I mean, like I've started a few businesses, like, but I'm like, my life isn't special. Like my life isn't
You don't
Steve
you
Jobs.
don't want to
My
be
life isn't,
special. You don't want to be
yeah.
special because when you're special,
Oh, right.
you're gonna get alienated. Meaning you're like it's lonely at the top. That's the concept. It's lonely at the top. No one can relate to you. You have no friends.
Yeah.
Yes,
They lie to
you
you.
are super. Let's say you are trillionaires, right? No one can be your friend. No one. Let's say Jeff Bezos or Zuckerberg, right? Can he go have a taco with somebody without people, either they praise him or they they hate him, whatever. It's no peace.
I mean,
There's
if
no
you think
peace for him, and there's no one that is at his level for him to confide in. I'm sorry. And
I
then
agree.
and him and Elon and Bezos and whatever, they always contending and fighting. Hey, mine's better or yours, but whatever. But those are the people that you have to choose. But if you're ordinary, you got billions of people to choose, and there's so many people that you can attract that is on the same wavelength as you are. You have a very, very joyous life. And to me, what is success? Success is what?
Don't miss the
Like
point.
I say, if you build this massive enterprise,
it's doing what you want,
but you can't
how you
tell
want to do it,
anyone
with the people you want to do it with. I mean, it's
can't tell
meaningful work
anyone.
and it's meaningful relationships. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think about this a lot when I hear Darren. I watch Darren Daily every single day, right? He has a team of people that curate these awesome videos every single day, and I'm like, we could do that. Like, but I'm like, I don't want to do that. Like, I don't like. I mean, like, I don't want to record this for 2 hours or 3 hours or whatever to cut it all up so we can get some very specific, recording that's like very clean and presentable and professional or whatever that goes out there, because that's not who I am. I don't think that's who you are either. Like we meander through conversations, talk about a lot of different shit, have a good time, and that's that. Like, I mean, I don't want this to be Darren Hardy, and Darren Daily, where you can sit here for 5 minutes every morning and get your quick fix of some idea. Like, I mean, yeah, we could have condensed this down to 5 minutes and say your story matters. Here's why your story matters. It's because XYZ, blah 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 blah. Smash that subscribe button, share it with your friends, like, and let's play some nice little video promo and and exit and and have it nicely curated on a little channel. I mean, sure, we could do that, but that's not fun. Like, I don't want to do that. That's work. This is way more fun. So share your story is the point. Bottom line, share your freaking story. get it out there. We're ready to listen, and we appreciate you listening to us if you're still listening to us at this point in time. But any final thoughts, and we'll
Yes, you are doing the world a service and yourself a service if you attract the right people to you.
agreed. Agreed. 100%.
Okay. And with that, we're out of time. So we'll bid you adieu and we'll see you tomorrow.
Awesome.
Bye.